Hey guys, tonight we drift through the golden haze of myth and music through a sky lit not just by the sun, but by a jealous god's need to be heard. You're in ancient Greece, but not the polished, marble column version they sell on postcards. No, this is the Greece of creaky oracle stools, dusty amphorae, and a strange smell that's either incense or slightly burnt goat hair. You're walking the ridgeline above Delphi, sandals too tight, the wind full of secrets. And just as you start to wonder why everything feels weirdly in tune, you hear it. A single pluck, like someone brushed the edge of the universe. And then a whisper, don't follow the lyre unless you want to lose everything you ever hummed. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. That part always makes me smile. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing beneath a fig tree, squinting at the rising sun, but something's wrong. That's no ordinary sunrise. That's a performance. The clouds arrange themselves like curtains. The sun doesn't rise, it steps into view, like a spotlight warming the stage. And there, at the center of it all, stands Apollo, not strutting, gliding, hair glowing like it was dipped in lion's blood and sung to sleep. He's holding his lyre, but he's not playing it, not yet. Because before this sunrise, there was a deal, and it didn't go smoothly. You see, Apollo didn't invent the sun route. That was Helios's job, the original solar commuter. But gods, like some musicians you may know, hate being upstaged. Apollo wanted more than poetry and prophecy. He wanted presence. So he bargained, some say with Zeus, others say with something older. According to an obscure scrap of papyrus locked in a monastery's wine cellar, Apollo once met with an entity called Choros, a shadow. Being of rhythm and silence, buried deep in Delphi's volcanic soil, he asked Choros for a sound so perfect it could pull the sun. Choros agreed, but only if Apollo would one day surrender it. Historians still argue whether this was symbolic myth or a metaphor for the shift from solar deity worship to personified gods like Apollo. But the oral fragments whisper that the lyre was born not from craftsmanship, but from this very promise. Anyway, you're still there, under the fig tree, now watching Apollo rehearse the sunrise like it's opening night. First, strum orange warmth. Second, pluck rooster call in stereo. Third note, and 100,000 olive leaves glitter like sequins. But then he fumbles, just a little, just enough for Helios to cackle from the east horizon. It's the kind of sibling rivalry you don't bring up at Olympian Thanksgiving, especially not if wine is involved. The mistake, his thumb slipped on the 7th string, and that was a problem, because the lyre had only 6 strings the last time he used it. He added the 7th in a moment of divine inspiration, trying to outshine the muses. They were not amused. You look down. Your feet are standing on baked earth cracked into musical staves. You swear you can see notes tattooed across the dirt. Above you, Apollo finishes the sunrise, sighs, and whispers, "I'm losing it." You wonder if he means the tune or the wager. That's when the oracle speaks, not from the temple steps, not from a cave, but from inside your own mind, like someone whispering through your molars. He gave the lyre because he had to, not because he wanted to. You blink, and you're in the temple now. It smells like sweat and laurel smoke. The Oracle of Delphi sits slumped, draped in cloth too ancient to fold properly. She's mid-sentence. You've apparently walked in late. And when the wager came due, she murmurs. The strings started singing on their own. She doesn't look at you, just rubs dirt into the floor in patterns that feel like time signatures. Fun historical detour. Archaeologists still debate whether the oracle inhaled actual volcanic fumes or just had a talent for ambiguous poetry. Either way, the wisdom stuck, sort of. Why would a god surrender music? You ask aloud. The oracle chuckles, voice like wet parchment, to see what mortals do when they think no one's listening. You step back. Your skin tingles like it remembers a song you haven't learned yet. Outside, the sky's dimming again. Apollo's done with his shift. Somewhere behind the clouds, Helios is smugly waiting for tomorrow. And Apollo, he's staring at his lyre like it betrayed him. You start walking down the mountain path. The oracle's final words echo behind you. When he hands you the lyre, don't ask what it plays. Ask what it remembers. And that's when you notice the fig tree's gone, and your hands. They're humming. You're still on the path, though. Path might be generous. It's more like a goat trail someone forgot to name, and it's covered in slippery laurel leaves. Your sandals squeak with every step. Somewhere behind you, a crow tries to imitate a lyre note and fails spectacularly. You can't tell if it's a bad omen or just Greek wildlife being dramatic. Ahead, the landscape flattens. You blink against the glare. Welcome to Apollo's favorite stage, the sky. Well, sort of. You're not flying exactly. More like coasting on a divine memory. A memory that tastes faintly like roasted chestnuts in pride. The clouds part. And there it is, the first time Apollo tried to drive the sun chariot. Not Helios's sturdy model. Apollo had something custom built. Sleeker, flashier, made of polished gold, melted saffron, and an unreasonable amount of mother of pearl. The horses, blinding, literal fire steeds, with manes that hiss when they flick. Problem was, Apollo had never actually driven it before. Imagine letting a teenage rock star pilot your private jet across the dawn. That's the vibe. The first loop. Over the Aegean. Beautiful. The second, a bit too low-scorched, a fleet of fishermen and a very surprised octopus. By the time he reached the Ionian coast, the sun had a tan, and so did the crops, and the statues, and several unlucky temples. Historical sidebar. Some ancient temples really did have sun-blackened statues, and some scholars suggest early myths of Apollo's sun chariot might explain discoloration from fire damage during droughts or raids. It's either that or Apollo just had bad depth perception. But let's get back to the burn. Halfway through his first celestial spin, Apollo did the unthinkable. He sweated. Gods aren't supposed to sweat. That's for mortals, gym instructors, and nervous bards before open mic night. But Apollo, dripping. The gold chariot floor turned slippery. His hands shook. The lyre, strapped to his back like a boastful backpack, began humming its own tune. That's when he panicked. He overcorrected the reins. One flaming horse Therion, the twitchy one whinnied in protest and veered left. The sun tilted. Somewhere in Arcadia, trees bent toward the sea in confusion, and Apollo, he face-planted, right into the flaming mane of the lead horse. Now, you'd think a god could recover gracefully. Nope. He did a full, undignified somersault and landed poof, flat on a cloud. Hair on fire. Pride in shambles. Lyre playing a sad minor chord all by itself. Like even it felt embarrassed. Later, myths would say Apollo descended for reflection. Truth is, he got a sunburn, a divine level one. His skin peeled in perfect curls that turned into birds. Probably nightingales. He had to wear a linen wrap for 2 weeks. Dionysus never let him forget it. You walk beside him now. In the replay of this memory, Apollo stares down at his hands, still gloved in light, still shaking slightly. He looks tired. Not God tired, artist tired. The kind of fatigue that comes from trying to make something perfect in a world that won't stay still long enough to listen. You want to say something comforting, but what do you tell a sun god? So you sit beside him instead. He breaks the silence first. They said the sun would suit me, but I only ever wanted the sound. He lifts the lyre, even scorched. It gleams. 7 strings, each humming faintly, like bees with opinions. You ask, why didn't you play your way across the sky? He sighs, because the sky doesn't applaud. It just burns. There's a long pause. One of the horses snorts in the distance and kicks a cumulonimbus into next week. You glance down again. The earth below is blurry, like someone smeared olive oil across a map. But you notice something odd. A pattern. A trail of scorched fields forming a strange shape. It's musical notation. You're not imagining it. Apollo notices too. That's where I slipped, he mutters, and that's where I buried the first melody. Historians still argue whether this refers to a real song, a lost ancient composition known as Heliogenes, supposedly encoded into crop patterns during one particularly dry year. But even fringe scholars admit it's more poetic than provable. Still, you see it now. A path. A melody carved into the world. And it all started with Apollo fumbling the reins. He gets up, brushes off the ash, and says something that chills you. Despite the warmth around you, a god's mistake becomes a mortal's myth. The sun chariot begins to descend, but you stay behind, hovering just above memory, drifting down toward Mount Helicon where the muses wait. They've heard the burn story before, and they're not impressed. You land softly, not like a falling feather, more like a bored one. Mount Helicon rises around you, a lush tangle of vines, fig trees, and the unmistakable smell of overbrewed herbal tea somewhere nearby. A tortoise plays percussion on a hollow log, badly. Ahead is a cave with curtains made of grapevines and glittering threads. A sign hangs outside etched in lazy golden letters. Muses practicing. Do not disturb unless you're tragic or brilliant. You push through anyway. Inside, it's chaos, not epic battlefield chaos, more like group project chaos. Scrolls scattered like fallen leaves, harps stacked like pizza boxes. 9 women argue over a single measure of music. That's not a lament. One snaps. It's a dirge. No, it's a dirge that wants to be a lullaby. Another retorts. It sounds like someone punched a harp and lied about it. Mutters a third. These are the muses' daughters of Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory. And they are very stressed out, especially today, because Apollo is coming to workshop something. Again, you step in further. One muse, Calliope. The leader notices you. She tilts her head. Great, another mortal with opinions. You're about to apologize, but she waves it off. Don't worry. You'll probably inspire tragedy. Most of you do. Historical detour time. The muses weren't just patrons of arts and inspiration. They were ancient concept machines. Each one repped a specific field: history, music, comedy, epic poetry, etc. But, according to fringe texts from Thessaly, there was once a 10th muse, Erida, the muse of mistakes. She was kicked out after convincing Homer to write a musical version of the Iliad that bombed in Athens. That's a joke. Probably. Back to the rehearsal. Apollo enters without knocking. He glows, not dramatically, more like a scented candle who knows its worth. The room quiets. I've brought a melody, he says. The muses exchange glances. Melodies from Apollo are usually one of 3 things: divine, overcomplicated, both. He lifts his lyre. The 7 strings shimmer. The sound begins not with music, but with breath, like a room exhaling. Then a single note. It hangs in the air longer than it should. You feel it in your teeth, in your spine, in that part of your chest that gets tight when you remember something beautiful and sad and wordless. And then it unravels into melody. The muses lean in, not with suspicion. Something's off. The scale he's using, it isn't standard. Not Greek, not Phrygian, not even Lydian. It's improvisational, raw, new. Terpsichore, muse of dance, narrows her eyes. What key is this? Apollo smirks. It doesn't have one. Urania, muse of astronomy, frowns. Then how does it align with a celestial frequency? He shrugs. It doesn't. They all look at each other like he's brought home a pet rock and insisted it could sing. You, meanwhile, are still floating somewhere between admiration and concern. Because the music is good, not clean, not divine, but alive. The muses aren't sure what to do, so they do what artists do best when threatened by something new. They critique it to death. Too emotional, says Euterpe. Too mortal, says Polyhymnia. Too catchy, says Melpomene. Apollo stands silent. He's heard it all before, but this time, he nods. Exactly. Calliope's voice drops. Are you saying you want mortals to play this? Apollo nods again. The cave falls silent. Even the tortoise stops drumming. Then Thalia, muse of comedy, bursts out laughing. Oh, that's rich. Give them the lyre. They'll turn it into background music for wine ads. But he doesn't laugh. Maybe they'll do better than us, he says softly. That's when it hits you. This isn't just a melody. It's a test. He's writing grief into sound. Not grief like a god feels it clean. Symmetrical, artistic, but the kind mortals feel, raw, unfinished. The kind that loops endlessly in your chest. That doesn't ask for closure, only echo. Historians still debate whether Apollo's early music represented cosmic order or emotional chaos. Some argue the tension between these 2 forces is what defined his mythology. sunlight as structure, but music as madness. It's probably both. Back in the cave, the rehearsal fizzles. Apollo places the lyre on a rock and leaves. Doesn't look back. The muses stare at the instrument like it just coughed. You approach it. It hums under your hand, like it knows you. And then it whispers something not in words, but in vibration. You close your eyes, and suddenly, you're in a smoke-filled tavern, somewhere far away, and someone is about to make a very bad choice. You open your eyes to the thick, sticky air of a tavern that has never once heard the phrase proper ventilation. The ceiling drips with centuries of pipe smoke. Every wooden beam creaks with a story it regrets. Somewhere in the corner, a goat is trying to cheat at dice. You're in Phrygia. It's late. It's always late in this place. And at the back table, slumped over a half-spilled flagon of something questionably fermented, is Marsyas. He doesn't look like trouble, just another satyr with too much bravado and not enough shirt, but there's a gleam in his eye, the kind that usually means somebody's about to challenge a god to something stupid. Across from him, an old man holds out a strange-looking flute, curved, shiny, aulos, double-reeded, smells faintly of bad decisions. It sings when you don't. The old man rasps, "Just breathe into it." Marsyas snorts, "I don't breathe music. I bleed it." And yet, curiosity is a dangerous flavor. He takes the flute, blows once. The room stills. Even the goat looks impressed. Here's the thing about the aulos. It doesn't play nicely. It wails. It snarls. It makes grown men remember their mothers and wonder why they never called. It's raw, unapologetic. And Marsyas, he loves it. Historical pause. The myth of Marsyas tells of a satyr who finds the aulos after Athena throws it away, disgusted by how it makes her cheeks puff out. Marsyas picks it up, masters it, and challenges Apollo, the literal god of music, to a contest. Spoiler alert, it goes very badly. But tonight, Marsyas hasn't challenged anyone yet. He's still just playing, improvising, making sounds no satyr should be able to make, notes that twist in the air like vines after rain. Ugly, beautiful, confusing, and then someone claps. Apollo has arrived. He doesn't walk in, he materializes, like stage fog with cheekbones. The room dims around him. His lyre hums quietly at his side, like it's trying to decide whether this is worth tuning for. Marsyas, naturally, puffs up, like what you hear. Glowboy. Apollo smiles, not kindly. I hear potential, and an overinflated ego. The tavern crowd senses a show. Bread is broken. Drinks are placed gently on tables. The goat sells seats near the hearth. I challenge you, Marsyas declares, to a contest of music. You with your plucks, me with my pipes. Apollo shrugs. What are the stakes? Marsyas leans back. Winner can do whatever they want to the loser. A few patrons choke quietly on their olives. Someone says yikes in ancient Greek. You want to intervene. You want to say, please don't do this. It never ends well. No one who challenges Apollo ends up with a good Yelp review, but it's too late. The crowd moves outside. The moonlight sharpens into a makeshift stage. Apollo tunes his lyre. Marsyas oils his aulos. And the battle begins. Round 1. Marsyas plays first. It's wild, frenetic. It sounds like lightning and heartbreak and goat hooves on marble. People cheer. Children cry. Someone faints. It's a moment. Apollo smiles politely. Then he strums. One note. That's all. And people weep. It's perfect. Balanced. Divine. Like the universe exhaled through string. Round 2. Marsyas ups the chaos. He plays upside down. He adds a beat with his hooves. He howls between notes. Apollo replies by adding a harmony so complex it causes 3 birds to fall in love midair. The crowd is torn, but then Apollo does something unfair. He sings. No one said anything about singing. Marsyas glares. You didn't say vocals were allowed. Apollo shrugs. You didn't say they weren't. Historians still argue whether this part of the myth reflects shifting values in musical performance from wild, rustic instrumentation to refined lyricism. Others think it's just a petty god flexing. Either way, Marsyas loses. And here's where it gets ugly. In most versions of the myth, Apollo flays Marsyas alive, peels him like a grape in front of the trees. And those trees, by the way, some say they still grow twisted from the sound of that scream. But not tonight. Tonight, in this memory, it ends differently. Marsyas drops the flute, bows his head, and says something no satyr has said before. Your music's better, but mine felt more true. Apollo pauses. For a moment, the god looks shaken. Because in that tiny moment of surrender, Marsyas taught him something he'd never admit. That perfection isn't always moving. Sometimes, it's the broken notes that echo longest. You walk away as the moon rises higher, the tavern fades, the goat steals the aulos and runs. And far off, under the branches of Helicon, the lyre hums again waiting. You step softly into the warm breath of Olympus. Not the pearly palace of tourist scrolls, but the backstage, the in-between, the part of heaven that smells like old parchment, overripe grapes, and someone trying too hard with essential oils. Here, behind the marble facades, is the God's Lounge. Mismatched thrones, couches that definitely used to be lions, and columns covered in graffiti from earlier pantheons. You pass one that reads, "Hades was here, and he's still mad." At the center of it all, Apollo paces. He's not performing today, he's pacing, which, for a god of calm radiance, is like a thunderstorm trying to look chill. On a table nearby lies the lyre, seven-stringed, restless, glowing faintly like a memory trying to become a song. And around it gather the other gods not to play, but to argue. Zeus leans back, chewing a fig pit like it owes him money. Athena cross-references scrolls. Artemis is pretending not to listen while cleaning her arrows, but you can tell she's listening hard. Who actually made it? Zeus finally asks, exasperated. You, Hermes. A goat? Apollo exhales through his teeth. Hermes crafted it. I gave it voice. Hermes stole a turtle shell, Athena interjects, then added strings made from sheep gut in hopes. You just tuned it aggressively. They go back and forth like this, divine ping-pong, until Dionysus speaks up from a velvet chair made entirely of wine vapor. What if it made itself? Everyone pauses. Now, fringe scholars, usually the kind who live a bit too close to sea cliffs, have argued that the lyre isn't just a musical instrument, but a thinking one. That it carries its own soul, that it remembers every note ever played upon it, even the ones that broke the room. In this moment, you can believe that, because the lyre is humming, softly, but not idly, like a kettle with opinions. You approach the table. The gods ignore you. That's their thing. Mortals are background noise, unless they're on fire or holding something explosive. You stare at the lyre, and suddenly, you're somewhere else, inside the lyre. It's not strings and wood. It's loops, echoes, every performance folded into layers. You hear Marsyas. You hear the muses' complaints. You even hear a baby, Hermes, giggling as he adds a 10th tuning peg just to be annoying. The lyre is an archive, a living one, but it's tired because it's stuck in a loop. Apollo always plays perfection. Mortals always try chaos. Gods argue about who owns beauty. And in the middle of it all, the lyre just keeps remembering. Back outside, Apollo lifts it gently. He plucks a note. It wobbles. Not out of tune, just weary. It doesn't want to play, he mutters. Athena frowns. That's not how instruments work. Artemis raises an eyebrow. Maybe that's not how your instruments work. And here, dear listener, is where things turn quietly unhinged. Because Zeus, king of sky and bad impulse control, reaches for the lyre and tries to pluck it himself. It zaps him, not gently. We're talking full cartoon style, beard sizzling, thunder belch level zap. He drops it with a yelp. It bit me. He snarls. Dionysus nods solemnly. Good. The lyre lands in your hands. No one gives it to you. It just rolls off the table and lands perfectly, like it's been waiting for this specific pair of mortal fingers since the Bronze Age. You hold it, and you feel the loop. Apollo sees your face. His expression shifts. Not fear, not anger. Relief. Maybe it's ready to break the cycle, he says quietly. You don't strum. Not yet. You just listen. And beneath the hum, beneath the memory, you hear something else. A melody trying to change itself. This is the secret of the golden lyre loop. Every god who's ever played it tried to repeat perfection. Every mortal who touched it tried to outdo it. But what if the point was never to master it? What if it was just waiting for someone to hear it differently? Historians still argue whether the myth of the self-aware lyre is a metaphor for the evolution of music from rigid formalism to emotional improvisation or just a poetic explanation for why no two musicians ever play the same piece the same way. Either way, the lyre's humming shifts. It recognizes you, and for the first time in centuries, it asks to be played just once. Not for glory, not for revenge, but just to see what might happen. You raise your hand, and the world holds its breath. Your fingers hover above the strings like they're waiting for permission from history, from the gods, from the lyre itself. And then, softly, you pluck one note. It doesn't ring out like a divine anthem. No thunder, no radiance, just a simple vibration. Low, imperfect, human. And the lyre doesn't protest. Instead, it purrs. You pluck another, then two together. Then a hesitant triad that resolves into something not found in any preserved scale, but it still sounds right, like morning breath and rain on old stone. Behind you, Apollo exhales, a quiet breath, barely there. He's not watching to judge. He's watching like someone remembering their first firefly. But someone else is watching too. You're suddenly standing not in Olympus, but in a vast stone room full of stale incense and scrolls older than dust mites. You're inside the Library of Alexandria, or at least a half-remembered version of it. Shelves spiral endlessly, scrolls labeled in languages no longer spoken, and in the center, an ancient, cracked table with precisely one item on it. A sheepskin scroll that seems to hum like it wants to crawl away. You pick it up. It reads, Aristotle's lost treatise on harmonics beyond the sphere. This isn't fiction. According to actual dusty scholars in creaky offices, there were rumored to be lost works of Aristotle on music and cosmology, somewhere between Pythagorean math and total nonsense. One of them allegedly described how musical intervals corresponded not just to the motion of celestial bodies, but to the fate of mortal souls. Naturally, the scroll in your hand is leaking ink. You unroll it carefully. Inside are not just diagrams of notes and stars, but sketches of instruments that have never existed. Lyres with 12 arms, flutes that bloom like flowers, a harp so large it requires moonlight to tune. At the bottom, a single footnote. The lyre of Apollo was never meant to repeat. Each time it is played the same, something is lost. And suddenly it all clicks. You've heard of the music of the spheres, right? The ancient idea that planets and stars make sound as they move. Well, according to this scroll, and at least 3 very drunk philosophers, Apollo's lyre didn't imitate that music. It changed it. Every divine strum recalibrated the cosmos, and that meant us if the same tune played too often. The pattern got locked in. Reality stiffened. Fate tightened. Everything started repeating. That's the loop. Not just musical, existential. You stare down at the lyre in your hands. It buzzes faintly, as if it knows you understand now. Each time it's played with intent to echo the past, the loop holds. But when it's played honestly and perfectly, something shifts. You play again. This time, you let your fingers wander. You don't chase harmony. You chase curiosity. And in the room, the scroll vibrates. Shelves creak. A soft light glows from above, painting shadows shaped like forgotten songs. Somewhere near the doorway, you hear a voice. You're not bad. You turn. Standing there is a woman in a tattered olive cloak, hair pinned with bone, one eye slightly too bright to be normal. She doesn't introduce herself, but you know, Erida, the rumored 10th muse. The one who got cut, the muse of mistakes. She walks over, takes the scroll, and nods approvingly. Took you long enough. You want to ask who she really is, why she's here, how this all fits together, but she's already gone. Just blinked out. The scroll remains. You fold it, somehow knowing it'll crumble if anyone else tries to read it. Back in the real, not real library, you find yourself walking toward an arched doorway. The lyre rests gently on your back now, lighter than before, less divine, more alive. You step through the arch and wake up in a field, soft grass, gentle sun, sheep somewhere in the distance sounding mildly concerned about existence, and before you, a boy, just a shepherd, just a mortal, and he's about to find the lyre for the first time. You lie hidden in the tall grass, dew kissing your sleeves, watching a shepherd boy fumble through a clump of thyme. He's muttering under his breath something about lost sheep, dumb goats, and why everything with hooves hates him. His name, though, you won't hear it yet. is Theron, just an ordinary mortal, or so you think. He kicks a stone, it hits something half buried beneath the soil. A string hums. Faint, eh? Sharp, enough to make him freeze. You already know what it is. He kneels and uncovers it slowly. Not the golden, glowing lyre of Olympus, no. This one's made of olive wood, faded and chipped. The strings coarse like they were spun from forgotten promises. The kind of instrument that wants to be misunderstood. He lifts it, hesitates, then plays badly, really badly. Historical sidebar. There were indeed rustic shepherd instruments, small lyres, pan flutes, and strange hybrid creations made from gourds, leather, and things best not asked about. Scholars rarely agree on what they sounded like, but consensus leans toward chaotic cow lullaby. Theron grimaces. His first few notes are rough, unsure, but then the lyre shifts, just slightly. The tuning adjusts itself not to perfection, but to him. The music steadies, and so does Theron. What you don't know, what he doesn't know, is that this moment, right here, will echo through history like a stone in a well. You see, Theron isn't just any boy. He was born on a moonless night under a sky that hummed with static. He never cried as a baby, just whistled, and the old woman in the village once swore he had a star hiding in his shadow, which would be fine if he hadn't also been cursed. The oracle back in Delphi, she knows his name. Because years from now, Theron will speak a note so pure it splits a mountain. But first, he just has to survive the next few days. You trail him as he returns to the village. Lyre strapped across his back like a secret he doesn't know how to hide. The sheep follow him without needing to be herded. Birds start matching pitch with his footsteps. It's subtle, but it's starting. And not everyone is happy about it. You notice an old man watching from the shadows. His eyes flash silver when the lyre sings. He mutters into a cracked coin and vanishes behind a wall of vines. In another corner, a girl drops her clay jar mid-step, staring at the boy like he's part ghost, part miracle. She won't speak to him, not yet, but she'll write songs about him someday. Theron reaches his house. His father, gray-bearded and bone-tired, grunts from the doorway. What's that? Just something I found. Theron mutters. Can it chop wood? No. Then put it down. Theron doesn't. He plucks a note. The wind shifts. A shutter claps. His father stares, then turns away, muttering about useless sons and musical nonsense. You follow Theron into the attic later that night. He sits cross-legged on a pile of dried lavender, the lyre in his lap. He plays to the rafters, to the moonlight, to nothing in particular, and something plays back, a second note, echoing his own, but not from the room. From inside the lyre, he freezes, plays again. The echo responds. A conversation begins. It's not words. It's not even music as mortals know it. It's memory. The lyre is remembering Apollo, Marsyas, the Muses, you, and now it's remembering him. Theron's fingers tremble. Not from fear, from recognition. He's not playing a song. He's being written into one. And far away, in a cracked column of the old oracle's temple, a spider web splits in two. The oracle stirs. She speaks one name, Theron. A bowl of ash shatters. Because the loop, it just tilted, slightly, enough to change everything. You drift behind Theron like a shadow made of curiosity. The next morning, he walks into the meadow with the lyre slung across his back. Awkward as ever, still unsure if the thing's magical or just allergic to being in tune. He sits beneath a crooked almond tree, the same spot he's always napped in back when life made sense and his biggest problem was sheep with no sense of direction. But today's different. The sky feels thinner. The clouds hang like they're eavesdropping. And when he plucks the lyre again, it doesn't just hum, it responds. Not with music, but with a sharp, metallic tone. Dissonant, unnatural. It's a warning. And then they arrive. First, just one. A woman in a too dark robe, walking silently over grass that doesn't bend beneath her sandals. Then another. A man with mirrored eyes and fingertips stained with ink. Then three more. All watching, all silent. You want to shout? Warn him. Tell him this isn't part of a pastoral coming-of-age montage. But Theron doesn't see the danger, not yet. He sees curiosity, maybe even admiration. The tallest one steps forward. cloaked in ochre, face half hidden by a veil woven with golden thread that shifts like liquid flame. That instrument does not belong to you. Theron straightens. I found it, and now we're here to take it back. He hugs the lyre to his chest. It plays for me. That gets a reaction. A few of the strangers exchange glances. One scoffs quietly. Another's lip twitches upward, like a smile made of rust. It always starts like this, the veiled one mutters. Suddenly, the meadow changes. The grass wilts in a 5-foot radius around the group. The birds stop. The wind stalls. A single leaf hovers mid-fall. Unsure whether it should commit, Theron stands. He doesn't know what's happening, but you do. These aren't mortals. Not really. These are echoes, failures of the loop, remnants of others who tried to break it, then were eaten by it. Each one once held the lyre. Each one lost it. They call themselves the dissonants. Historical aside, there are murky references in late classical texts to rogue cults of Apollo not worshippers, but rejects, musicians who went mad chasing true divine resonance, often ending up exiled or mute. Fringe theorists believe these stories may reflect early philosophical anxiety around dissonance. The idea that not all music should be resolved, that chaos, too, has voice. Back in the meadow, Theron doesn't run. Instead, he plays one clean, terrified note, and the lyre answers loudly. A pulse ripples outward like thunder rolled into silk. The dissonants flinch. The tall one hisses, "You don't know what you're doing." Theron takes a step back. Neither do you. Then something breaks. Not the lyre. The air. A seam splits open behind him, a kind of sonic fracture. Through it, you glimpse a blinding golden corridor, lined with impossible instruments, each one vibrating with histories that never happened. The dissonants recoil. He's opened the archive. One whispers. Another. We're too late. And they vanish. Not dramatically. They simply cut out like bad notes erased from a score. Theron collapses to his knees, his breath ragged, the lyre dim now, but still pulsing softly. You approach, kneel beside him. Place a hand on his shoulder. He looks at you for the first time. Really looks. What is this? He asks. You don't have a perfect answer. But the truth slips out before you can stop it. It's not an instrument. It's a mirror. Because that's what Apollo left behind, not a weapon, not a prize, a reflection of whoever dares to play it. And Theron. He just saw himself for the first time. The meadow is quiet now. Too quiet. Even the insects have taken a union break. The sun presses down like warm cloth, and you sit beside Theron, who's still staring at the lyre as if it might explain itself. It won't, because it can't. Because that echo he played, it changed something. And not just in the lyre. That night, strange things start happening. The first is silence. Not peaceful silence, but absence. A kind that prickles. By morning, the birds are gone. The frogs don't sing. The wind, still, like the world forgot its rhythm. Then it spreads. In the village, the old man who always whistles on his porch stops mid-tune. Not because he forgets it, because the sound doesn't come out. The baker's bell doesn't ring. The market woman's jars don't clink. A dropped pot lands with nothing but a silent thud. People notice, whisper, worry, and Theron hides. He retreats to the attic, to the dried lavender and spider webs, clutching the lyre like a lifeline. He tries playing again, hoping it might undo whatever he triggered. But the strings resist. They're tense, angry, out of alignment, like a storm is coming through the wood grain. You follow him outside at dusk. He walks the hills, retracing his steps from that first melody. The silence follows like a second shadow. He doesn't understand yet, but you do. Apollo is listening, and he is not amused. See, the god of light and prophecy is also the god of vengeance. And while he may have offered the lyre freely once, he doesn't like being surprised, especially by a mortal. Historical footnote. In some obscure versions of the Apollo myths, one's only preserved in back margins and cracked urns. There's a tale of a shepherd who played too well, so well. In fact, that Apollo silenced an entire valley in retaliation. No song, no bird calls, not even the whisper of grass. A musical curse made of stillness. It's not a well-known version, but you're standing in it now. By the third day, the livestock grow nervous. The bees vanish. The well echoes with a delay, like time itself is lagging. Theron returns to the meadow, kneels. He doesn't speak aloud. There's no point, but you hear his thoughts. Please, I didn't mean to break it. I only wanted to hear something true. And then, one string snaps, not loudly, no scream of tension, just a soft ting, like a thread being cut. The lyre dims. Theron gasps, tries to retie it, fails. Another string phrase, and then another. You grab his arm. Pull him back, because it's not just the lyre that's unraveling now, it's the landscape. The trees bend the wrong way. Stones hum with the absence of sound. The shadows flicker in place. Apollo is unmaking music, one vibration at a time. Theron falls back, eyes wide. What do I do? You don't answer, because this isn't your loop to solve anymore. It's his. Far above, the clouds part not with rain, but with light. A single beam shines down, and in it, Apollo. But this time, not golden, not radiant. He's pale. Tired, his eyes carry centuries of song and silence. He descends without words, stands across from Theron. Then, quietly, you heard something. I didn't. Theron can't speak. Apollo kneels, places a hand on the broken lyre. For a moment, you think he's going to destroy it completely, but instead, he restrings it with one single strand, a new one. Faintly silver, flickering, and he hands it back. Play what I can't. Then he disappears. Just like that, no thunder, no flourish, just gone. Theron stares at the lyre, new string, one note. He plucks it, and the wind returns. A single nightingale sings. Somewhere, a river resumes its hum. He closes his eyes and keeps playing, because the silence, it wasn't punishment, it was space. For something new to begin, you follow the sound down from the hills. It starts faint, one note turning into three, into a fragile melody that limps before it walks. But it's growing, warming. The trees sway again. The birds return in pairs, dazed and off-key, like they overslept by a week and forgot how chirping works. Theron plays, not with confidence, exactly, but with intention. His fingers still fumble. His rhythm slips now and then, but the lyre doesn't punish him. It bends to him. A fragile truce, you'd think. After such a moment, godly visitation, a silence curse lifted. The whole dramatic orchestral vibe, he'd get a minute to breathe. Nope, because Dionysus just showed up. You smell him before you see him. Wine and honey, smoke and sandalwood. Maybe some fermented pomegranate thrown in for good measure. He's reclined in a grapevine hammock, eyes half-lidded, skin sun-kissed and kissed by probably too many people. And yes, he's holding a lyre-shaped drinking vessel, which is objectively overkill. So this is the boy. He muses, swirling purple liquid like it contains secrets. Apollo gave it back to you. Theron nods, unsure if this is good news. We were drinking bets on whether he'd flay you. You clear your throat. Dionysus ignores you. He flips upside down in the hammock, then somersaults to the ground in a movement that makes no physical sense but somehow lands with style. Don't worry, kid. I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to test you. Uh-oh. From his robe, Dionysus pulls out a battered tambourine. It growls. Historical digression. Dionysian rituals involved real music intense, chaotic, often percussive. Wild dances, frenzied shouts. Ancient scholars describe them as ecstatic and spirit-splitting, which sounds like either divine revelation or the worst nightclub ever. He claps. The world spins. Suddenly, you're not in the meadow. You're in a vineyard, but one where the grapes hum in harmony, and the crows speak in minor chords. The vines twist into staves and bars of sheet music. The clouds bounce to the beat. Dionysus grins. Welcome to my version of practice. He snaps his fingers. A dozen instruments appear mid-air: flutes, drums, lyres, shells that spit rhythm when tapped. Theron clutches his lyre tighter. I don't know how to. That's the point. Dionysus cuts in. Improvisation. The word echoes. Theron gulps. Then, quietly, he begins to play. The lyre chirps, twists, It stumbles, then regains footing. He tries to follow a beat, fails, then leads one, fails again. The sky turns sideways. Dionysus starts dancing, not gracefully. Think enthusiastic uncle at a wedding mixed with someone dodging bees. But it works. It works. Theron matches it. Suddenly, he's not playing what he thinks is right, he's just responding to the rhythm, to the weirdness, to the mistakes, and the lyre. It loves this. For the first time, the instrument sings with him, not at him. The sky thunders not with storm, but with applause, because someone is watching. Actually, several someones, up in the divine balconies of Olympus. The gods gather, Athena sipping olive brine, Hermes stealing olives from her, Hera pretending not to care, Artemis glaring like she wants to shoot the chord progression out of the air. Apollo, he's there, too, but quiet, because the test has been passed. Back in the vineyard, Dionysus raises a toast to the boy who didn't break the loop. He bent it. Theron breathes, sweaty and dazed. Is it over? Dionysus laughs. Over. Oh no, no, now it gets messy. You tug Theron aside as the vines start coiling into dance partners. You whisper, you passed, but that means the real stakes start now, because Apollo gave the lyre. But Dionysus, he gave the choice. What to do with it? And that changes everything. You wake up to the sound of hammers, not industrial, not blacksmith clanging. This is a gentler rhythm. Wood on wood. Metal on stone. The kind of tapping that suggests someone isn't just building something, but inventing it. You follow the sound through a crooked olive grove. The trees seem older here, knotted and wise, whispering things to each other in a language made entirely of creaks. In the middle of it all, Hephaestus. Yes, that Hephaestus, the god of forge and fire, the one who makes the gods' toys, crowns, curses, and, occasionally, espresso machines that curse you if you drink decaf. He stands hunched over an anvil, sparks dancing across his wrists. But what's in front of him isn't a sword, shield, or golden boar. It's a lyre, a new one. Strange, though, because it's not complete. The body is hollowed from petrified wood, dark as memory, older than myth. The arms curl like horns, engraved with spiral sigils that shift when you blink. And the soundboard, it's made from something not of this world. He sees you, doesn't smile. Apollo told me to build this, he grunts, without turning. But Artemis told me how. You glance around, no sign of her. But the scent of wild mint hangs in the air, and somewhere far off, an arrowhead shivers in a tree trunk. Hephaestus continues, shaping the bridge so precise it feels like he's carving silence itself. You peer over his shoulder. Why does it look wrong? You ask. Because it's not finished. It's waiting. For what? For him. And just like that, Theron enters the grove. His hair's a bit longer, his gait steadier. There's something new in his eyes, like he started listening with more than just his ears. He's holding his lyre, the old one, frayed, bitten by gods and time and choices. Hephaestus doesn't greet him, just gestures. Put it here. Theron hesitates. That lyre got him through a lot. Got you through a lot. But he knows you can't carry every version of yourself forward. He places it on the forge. The wood sighs, literally, and the strings, what's left of them, curl inward, dissolving into the body. The new lyre drinks it in and begins to pulse. Hephaestus steps back, crosses his arms. Now play it. Theron picks it up. It's heavier, not in weight, in memory. It smells like ozone and old lullabies. He strums, and the grove answers. The trees bow slightly. The air thickens, like the world is holding its breath to hear the next note. Hephaestus chuckles. Built from wood no god dared touch. Artemis found it, a tree that grew on a battlefield no one remembered to write down. Historical sidebar. In Anatolia, there are legends of trees that grow where gods wept. One tale speaks of a blackwood grove where forgotten war songs echo in the bark. But no record survives, just folk melodies played wrong on purpose, as if mimicking a memory that shouldn't be real. Back in the grove, Theron experiments. This lyre doesn't perform, it resonates. The sounds it makes feel layered, like each note carries a shadow note, a memory note. One pluck, and you hear a girl laughing. Another, and you hear wind across a temple floor. One more, and silence. thick and knowing. You realize this lyre is a vessel, not just of sound, but of intention. Theron sets it down. I don't know if I'm ready for this. Hephaestus shrugs. No one ever is. Then, unexpectedly, but that's what makes it yours, you walk with Theron out of the grove. He doesn't ask where you're going, because he already knows. The gods gave him tools. Now, the world's going to test what he does with them, and not everyone will be as welcoming as olives and songbirds. The first village Theron walks into with the new lyre strapped across his back doesn't greet him with songs or parades, or even polite confusion. They stone him, not hard, not enough to draw blood, but with intention. A plum hits his shoulder. A chunk of broken pottery skids past his foot. A sharp hiss from an old woman sends a pack of children scattering like startled birds. You nudge him behind a fig cart just before someone lobs a sandal. "What is this?" he mutters. You whisper, "A test, because this village small, dry, with cracked earth and temples long abandoned, used to sing, used to tell stories, until one night, a bard arrived with a silver-stringed instrument and sang a lullaby that ended a war. Then a baby died, and a fire started, and a priest declared, music has consequences. So they banned it. The instruments were burned. The dancers fled. Even humming became taboo. They replaced rhythm with ritual, joy with schedule. And now they see Theron and his lyre as a curse. He walks into the square anyway, gently, carefully, no words, just presence. The people murmur. They close shutters. One old man raises a broom like it's sacred. Theron sits on the edge of a dry fountain and plucks one note. Low, hollow. It lands like a pebble in a silent lake. No one moves. He plays again. This time a fifth, then a third, then a minor seventh that twists the air like a breeze, trying to remember what it felt like to dance. And then a girl claps. Just once. Accidental, instinctual. Her mother gasps and pulls her back, but the damage is done. A crack, a fissure in their silence. Theron keeps going. He doesn't play at them. He plays for the square itself, for the pigeons nesting above the shuttered temple, for the fig cart, for the dust. And the music, gentle, strange, uneven, starts pulling things forward. A child sways. An old man hums beneath his breath. Then a woman begins to cry. Not out of grief, but because her voice remembers. Historical footnote. In some corners of Greece, lullabies were considered sacred spells. Songs that bridged the human and divine, even when temples fell. Many households kept singing these melodies. Scholars argue that the tradition held memory when writing was burned away. Others believe the lullabies were the gods' final gifts before retreating. Theron shifts melodies mid-play. Now it's softer. A lullaby. Maybe, but strange. New. He weaves the sound like a net, drawing the village in without demanding anything, until someone steps forward. A man in black robes. The priest. Eyes like drought. Voice like stone. Stop! Theron stops. The air stiffens. The priest approaches, stares down at the lyre. That song you played, it was the same one the bard sang before the fires. No, Theron says calmly. That song was finished. This one's still becoming? The priest frowns. The crowd holds its breath. You think new notes change the past? No. Theron answers, but they can carry it differently. You watch the priest's fingers twitch. The broom-armed man shifts behind him. Tension builds. Theron strums one chord, and everything shifts. A woman gasps, recognizing something in the music. The temple door creaks open. A wind blows through. Dry leaves dance, and someone begins to sing. You don't know who starts it. It doesn't matter. It's clumsy, off-key, but it's human, and it opens the door, not just of the temple, of the loop. The people of the village don't suddenly forgive the past. They don't kneel or cheer, but they listen. And no more stones are thrown. Theron walks out at sunset. Quiet. That didn't feel like winning, he says. You nod. It wasn't. Then what was it? You glance back toward the village. Smoke rises not from fire, from a cooking hearth and a whistle. You smile? It was a verse. Theron walks. The road hums under his steps, not with magic, but with momentum. Each village he passes carries a different echo. Some welcome him with cautious claps. Some don't meet his eyes. One town, deep in the mountains, tried to lock him in a shed after a single note bent a weather vane into a perfect spiral. But this next place, it's different. You feel it before you see it. The wind shifts, the air thickens, and the map, if you had one, would mark this town with an asterisk and a warning. Do not sing here. It's a city built on memory. Tall white walls, towers full of parchment, echoes of long-forgotten orators frozen in stained glass. Once, it was a place of learning. Then came the siege, and during that siege, according to rumor, a bard played one song, just one. They say the notes made the invaders stop marching, drop weapons, cry. They say the gates opened, and peace arrived. But they never say what happened next, because 3 nights later, everyone inside the city died. Not by sword, by sleep. No fire, no screams, just a blanket of stillness so deep it left even the gods confused. Theron enters this city at dusk. No guards, no greetings, only murals of musicians with their mouths scratched out. He pauses. You pause with him. Should I play? You hesitate. Then shake your head. Not yet. Instead, he explores. The streets are clean, silent, orderly. People move like ghosts. Efficient, careful, always watching the corners of their vision. There's a statue of the bard in the square. No plaque, just a crack in the marble throat. Theron sleeps in an abandoned courtyard that night, tucked under the stars. And in the quiet of early morning, a girl finds him. She doesn't speak, just sits. After a long silence, she whispers, "You brought the lyre." He nods. She doesn't smile. "My grandmother told me music once saved this city. Then it killed it. I don't want to kill anything," he says, "but you want to change something." He nods again. She pulls something from her satchel, a small cloth pouch. Inside, a lullaby, not in notes, but in stitches and embroidery, delicate vines, leaves, and patterns you don't recognize at first. But the thread follows the shape of an old folk melody, one forbidden for decades. "It was my brother's song," she says quietly. "He hummed it once. They took him." "Where?" Theron asks. She looks toward the mountains, the Hall of Silence. Now, fringe mythologists know the name. Most consider it metaphorical, a symbolic space where music dies. But in a footnote of a 3rd century play, there's a reference to a real place, a fortress where melody is stored, not archived, buried. And guess who built it? Apollo, as a fail-safe, in case someone like Theron came along. Later that day, in the city square, Theron stands beneath the statue, and he plays just one note. You hold your breath. Nothing happens until the wind begins to sing back. One child hums. Another claps. A boy stomps rhythm into the cobblestones. It's not rebellion. It's release. But the city isn't ready. The high voice, an elder in a white sash, rushes forward, flanked by guards, eyes cold. "You've opened the gates." Theron tilts his head. "To what?" "To what we buried." The elder points toward the mountains. "Go there. Finish what you've begun. But don't come back." Theron turns to you. "Is it exile? If they send you where you were already going?" You don't answer. You both know the answer. He leaves the city as the sun dips low, and behind him, a single window opens. Someone sings. The road to the mountains is made of silence. Not the kind that hurts, but the kind that waits. The kind that feels like every bird, every stone, even the wind is holding its breath for you. Theron walks steadily now. The new lyre on his back glows faintly with each step. Not in light, but in memory. Notes played, voices lost, choices made. It hums with everything that wasn't said, and everything that still could be. You crest the final ridge together, and there it is, the Hall of Silence. It doesn't look like a prison. It looks like a cathedral made of stone too dark for day. No windows, no doors, just a single cleft in the rock face, as narrow as a sigh. Above the arch, carved into the stone in ancient, weather-worn script. Here ends what dares to echo. Theron touches it. The stone vibrates once, then opens. Inside is a world without vibration, not just without music, without sound. Every step he takes is muted. His breath doesn't whisper. The lyre on his back stops humming as if afraid to be noticed. And you feel blurred. Like you're here, but not completely. Like the hall is trimming away anything that might resonate. The first chamber holds walls of strings snapped, broken, untuned. Some still glisten with past melodies. Some twitch when Theron walks by, like they remember being played. The second chamber is colder, columns of wax tablets, silent scrolls, and cages. Each one contains a sound, bottled, bound. You can feel them. One cage vibrates faintly with the sob of a mother during war, another with the laughter of a child who died too early. One, darker still, pulses with the final scream of someone who challenged a god and meant it. This is where Apollo buried the songs he couldn't erase. Not because they were wrong, but because they were unresolvable. Theron walks carefully now, reverent. You both feel the pressure building as he enters the final chamber, the heart of the hall. No ornament, no throne, just a stone plinth, and on it, an empty space. You know instantly what it's missing. The lyre. Theron steps forward. The weight on his back suddenly feels too great. His knees wobble. You feel it too. Because this isn't a hall, it's a lock. And the lyre is the key. But keys don't just open. Sometimes they release what should have stayed buried. He hesitates. What if this wasn't meant to be played again? He whispers. You shrug. What if nothing ever was? And then a voice, soft, high, from the dark corner of the room. I've been waiting. A girl steps forward. She's no older than Theron. Pale, hair like moonlight, dipped in ink. Her eyes shimmer with notes you can't quite hear. They put me here when I wouldn't stop singing. She doesn't speak with anger, just acceptance. They said my melody unraveled things. That harmony couldn't hold me. Theron watches her. Do you remember the song? She nods, but I can't play it alone. He takes the lyre from his back, steps to the plinth. She raises her hand, not to touch him, to join him. And together, they begin to play, not a lullaby, not a hymn, something in between. The hall shudders, walls crack not destructively, reluctantly, like they're finally letting go. One by one, the cages open, the trapped sounds float upward, hesitant, weightless, a weeping echo, a battle cry, a baby's first gasp. And then, silence again. But not emptiness. This silence is full, brimming, sacred. The girl smiles, thank you, and dissolves into the melody, gone, not vanished. Carried, Theron lowers the lyre. You stand together in the hall, not as rebels, not as victors, but as listeners, because this was never about defiance. It was about making space for every song that never got to finish. You leave the hall just before sunrise. The mountains stretch wide before you, painted in peach and gold, but softer now, like the light itself has heard what happened inside. Behind you, the Hall of Silence no longer looms. It simply rests, quiet, still, but somehow lighter. Theron doesn't speak for a long time. Neither do you, because how do you talk after releasing 100 unfinished songs? He walks until the sun is high, until his shoulders sag with something not quite exhaustion. And then, in the clearing below a cedar tree, he stops. He sets the lyre down and stares at it. I think I understand now, he says. You wait? It was never meant to be mine. That catches you off guard. But he smiles gently, tiredly. It's not about who plays it best, or who owns it, or who deserves it. He kneels and places the lyre in the grass. It's about who hears it. The moment hangs, delicate, and then wind, soft, just enough to rustle the strings. The lyre hums, faint, final, and goes still. He stands up, walks away. No fanfare, no divine farewell. Just a boy who carried a sound long enough to let it go. You follow? Somewhere, far beyond the clouds, Olympus leans in. Apollo watches. He doesn't retrieve the lyre. He just nods. Because this time, the melody ended right. And that's when the world shifts again. Slowly, every village Theron passed begins to hum again. Children whistle. Elders sing lullabies they once whispered in fear. The fig carts rattle joyfully. The city that exiled him now throws open its gates to music schools, to dancers, to rhythm again. And in the hills, another shepherd boy finds a carved piece of olive wood. Not a lyre, not yet. Just something that wants to be, because the song never ends. It only waits for new hands, new voices, new listeners. And as you fade into the quiet of your own thoughts, one final chord plays in the distance. You recognize it not because it's perfect, but because it's human. and it stays with you. Like the faintest echo in the ear of sleep, the world quiets now. The journey's over, not with a crescendo, but with a breath, like someone gently closing a door they once slammed open. The lyre lies untouched in a sunlit field. No hands pluck its strings, no gods reach for it, no mortals beg to play it. And yet, it remains, not because it must be heard, but because sometimes sound is memory. And memory is enough. You feel your body soften now, like it's becoming part of the silence, not resisting it. Your breath slows. The tension in your shoulders fades, like old parchment curling at the edges. The story lingers, yes, but only the quiet parts, the small images. A crooked fig tree where the oracle whispered your name. A boy plucking imperfect notes under a worried sky. A priest whose silence cracked open like stone. A single string, silver and new, holding the entire weight of what we choose to carry and what we finally let go. You're safe now. No loops, no tests. Just you. Just rest. Let the melody fall behind you like footsteps smoothed out by time. Let the quiet come not as absence, but as permission to be still, to be soft, to be unfinished. You did enough. They all did. And somewhere, in a field far from Olympus, the last note still vibrates. Just for you. Good night.